All right, DeWitt, a couple of more picks from each of us here. We're going to start with you. Just talked about it with Jason. He said they maybe took a little bit of a coward's way out, sitting Bills at 4.5-point favorites in Tennessee against the Titans. Where are you at on this one?
I'm taking the Bills because they look like the Chargers. They look like one of the best teams in football.
Maybe the best team.
I mean, that game last night was impressive. I think the Chiefs have huge issues. They look like the team. They may be the scariest number 7 seed in NFL history. I mean, we've only had like 2 years.
We've only had two. We've only had two number 7 seeds in NFL history.
We'll circle back to that one later.
They're definitely. I agree. The Chiefs are scarier than the 2020 Chicago Bears. I agree with you on that for sure.
There you go. All right. So here's where I'm taking. Here's my thoughts on the Titans, and then we'll circle back to the Bills. The Titans defense is not good, right?
No.
Yes. This team is not built to come from behind, correct? This team is a get the lead, pound the ball, run the ball. If Ryan Tannehill has to make a throw, he can definitely do it. I'm not saying Ryan Tannehill is not a great quarterback. I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. I just don't think this is a bad matchup for the Titans just because of how they're built. Because I understand, like Josh Allen and the Bills offense is going to score against this defense, no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. And we saw that yesterday. Trevor Lawrence, I watched part of that game yesterday. He looked really good in parts of that game yesterday. By far, Trevor Lawrence's best game is how he looked, and he looked comfortable. He didn't look like he was getting rushed out of the pocket. He just looked like he knew what he was doing against this Titans defense. So I just think, and then last week, I mean, Michael said, hey, we don't want to go looking at previous results too much in the NFL, but they lost to the Jets. Let's just point that out. And then, another thing is like home field. Some people will be like, oh, the Titans are at home. It's a Bills back-to-back travel week, all this weird stuff. They got back late, early in the morning on Monday, probably the day off today. I mean, I'm not worried about that at all. It's a Monday night game. They have plenty of time to travel. They'll get into Nashville. Hopefully they stay out of trouble. But I don't think home field matters that much in the NFL right now, even with the fans. So, I just think, and then you look at the Tennessee's wins. They have wins against the Jaguars, Colts, and Seahawks. I'll give you credit. The Seahawks win is great. But the Jaguars and Colts are definitely one of the bottom 10 teams in the league. So that's kind of where I'm going. I think this line should be closer to 6.5, 7. Like Michael said, they didn't know where to set this line because they were concerned about the Titans or Jason, but like they just don't know where to go about this one. So that's where my thoughts are. The Bills are just one of the best teams, and I'm going to take them on the road. Just like last night, they were 3-point favorites or 3-point underdogs last night. I have no problem taking the Bills on the road.
Look, I'll say this. If, the point of us getting together on these Mondays and talking about early lines is because we want to get in before before the sides that we like are a few points, more in their favor, right? And you want to get in on the Bills before this becomes 5.5 or 6.5. And that's the only way this line is going, right? There's no way that you're buying this at 4.5 and 5 days from now, you're going to be like, oh man, if I waited, look, it's 3.5 now. Like there is almost no way that happens. So it definitely is as of Monday, right? This has to be Bills or nothing. It just has to be Bills or nothing right now. And I agree with you. Like, this is one of those games that just has the feeling of how is Tennessee possibly going to keep up? How is it? Because they're not going to, it would take a confluence of unlikely events for them to keep the Bills south of, give them a little bit of credit and say even like 27 points. Right, and they could do it, right? They totally control the game with Derrick Henry. They make it a game of, as few possessions as possible. Derrick Henry has a great game. They're holding the ball for 7, 8, 9 minutes on their scoring possessions. Like, that's the formula for the Titans, and they could do that. It just feels incredibly unlikely. And even that coming to, being the eventuality doesn't foreclose on the Bills just doing their thing offensively as well. And so it adds up, such a way that it's hard to believe that the Titans can keep this, within the 4.5, within the number. It definitely would take a lot of things going their way, and it could happen, but definitely not something you want to bet on, at least not at 4.5. This definitely has the feeling of something that if you like the Titans, let it roll for a couple of days, because you're probably going to get 5.5 or 6.5 or maybe even a full touchdown by the time we're really talking about this game kicking off on Sunday.